Agenda item licensing committee. So I'd like to ask us all again to turn off our cell phones if we haven't already done that, or at least turn them to silent and make sure they're off the table so we can avoid feedback noise. Again, you may notice that we're using laptops during the meeting. This is solely to access the committee meeting materials that are in electronic format. We have a designated time on the agenda for public comment and ask for public comment on each agenda item. I ask that you be respectful of the need to conduct the committee's business. Should anyone disrupt the meeting, I'll ask the person to conduct himself or herself in a manner such that permits committee members to transact this business. This meeting will be available via teleconference. Individuals listening to the meeting will have an opportunity to provide public comment and will be assisted by a moderator who will be facilitating the teleconferencing process. For those members of the public participating via teleconference, please wait until the moderator has introduced you before you make your comments. To request to make a comment during the public comment period, press *1. You will hear a tone indicating you are in the queue for comment. If you change your mind and do not want to make a comment, press the # sign. Assistance is available throughout the teleconference meeting. To request a specialist, press *0. Each person will be limited to 3 minutes per agenda item. However, during agenda item 2, public comments on items not on the agenda, the committee has limited the public comment period for individuals on the teleconference to 20 minutes total. In addition, public comment from individuals here at the meeting will also be limited to 20 minutes total. Therefore, after 20 minutes, no further comments will be accepted. During public comment on any other agenda item, 10 minutes will be allowed for comments from individuals on the teleconference line and those in the audience. After 10 minutes, no further comments will be accepted. Business service staff will be assisting me with receiving the public comments via teleconference during this meeting. The committee welcomes public comment on any item on the agenda, and it is the committee's intent to ask for public comment prior to the committee taking action on any agenda item. If for some reason I forget to ask for public comment on an agenda item and you wish to speak on that item, please raise your hand and you will be recognized. I would like to remind all speakers to complete a presenter slip so I can call you by name at the appropriate time and that the record of this meeting can be full and complete. Please give the speaker slips to Ms. Toof. Ms. Toof, can you identify yourself? I will do my best to call upon everyone who has supplied a slip for the agenda item and recognize those who wish to make a last-minute comment. But we will ask you to fill out a speaker slip after your comment so we can have it for the record. I want to remind all speakers to please stay on topic and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. We plan to end today at 2:30 p.m. I would now like to call the meeting to order and ask Mr. Warden, please call the roll.
Dr. Gonadev?
Here.
Ms. Pines?
Here.
Ms. Shipsky? Ms. Wright?
Here.
Dr. Bishop?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's see. I would like to remind the members that we will be taking roll call vote on all action items. Moving to agenda item 2, public comments not on the agenda. Are there any comments from the audience present? Any comments from the phone?
No comments from the telephone.
Very good. Let's move to our next agenda item, which is agenda item 3, approval of minutes from the July 24, 2014 Licensing Committee meeting.
So moved. Second.
All right. Is there any comment from the members of the committee? Any comment from the public present? Any comments from the phone?
No comments from the phone.
Very good. Mr. Warden, please perform a roll call vote.
Dr. Gonadev?
Aye.
Ms. Pines?
Aye.
Ms. Wright?
Aye.
Dr. Bishop?
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Warden. Let's move on to agenda item 4, the licensing program update by Mr. Warden.
I'd like to start out by thanking all of the licensing staff for the hard work that they've put in this last year to try to meet the licensing program goals. This year, the licensing program has had several vacancies, staff on various types of leave, and several staff in training. And the licensing program was still able to meet the 45-day initial review of physicians and surgeon applications for 32 weeks out of the 52 weeks. And staff did not exceed at any time the 60-day review data specified in regulation. To provide a little more information about the physician and surgeons licensing, we issued 5,873 licenses this year, which is an increase of 351 from the previous year, fiscal year 13-14. Licensing staff was requested to work overtime in order to process all the applications and issue licenses for residents who needed licensure, and by July 1st of 2015. The licensing managers and staff worked very hard during that period of time and put in a lot of hours to get that accomplished. There were approximately 45 individuals who did not receive their license by July 1st that or needed them, and it is important to note that all of these applicants either applied very late, did not provide all of the required primary source documents timely, were waiting for fingerprint responses. In addition, some were from out-of-country applicants waiting for the immigration process and the issuance of their Social Security numbers. In addition, a few of the applicants did not take their USMLE until Step 3 until June 25th. And of course, the scores don't come to us until almost 30 days after that. Staff is still keeping track of those applicants to make sure that they are licensed as quickly as they can be. The call center received 155,092 calls last year, and this was an increase of 6,634 more calls than in the previous fiscal year. International medical school recognition, there are 107 medical schools pending board recognition. 7 of those medical schools have pending self-assessment reports pursuant to California Code of Regulation 1314.1A2. And then as far as licensed midwives go, we had received 45 applications and issued 42 and renewed 153 licenses. And that concludes my update on the licensing program.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I just have a couple questions for you. I don't see Mr. Shunke present today. Is he still, or are we still providing licensing fairs for the larger programs in the state?
Yes, he's actively doing licensing fairs on a regular basis, and he's actually done some recently for the new orientations for new medical residents, and also starting licensing fairs again for the new residents who are going to need licensure by next year. So,
excellent. I know those are very well received by all. That's really a fine thing we're doing. Second, you said that we were receiving a large volume of calls, as we always do. Is there any sort of trend you can identify in the types of calls we're receiving? Has there been any changes in the sort of questions you're having or issues that we're seeing?
Well, a lot of our phone calls are related to what Ms. Kirkmeyer referred to earlier, was the lack of the WAS system for applicants to be able to identify what documents are not here or missing. And so we received a high volume of phone calls because of that, and also emails, and that's, I believe, is the reason for the significant increase in phone calls recently over these years, because they can't do what they used to do. The programs can't do what they used to do. And so they rely on phone calls.
Is there anything in Breeze, or is there any workaround we're working on to help with that?
They just installed our new update on, basically, that became effective June 30th, so that they can get some of that information now on if they applied online with Breeze, and but that's going to take a little while for it to go through, because it's from that date forward and not anything that was in the past. So it's going to take a little while for that to become more useful, and it's not quite as detailed as what WAS was. So,
Well, hopefully there's some help in the future for you then.
but
Thank you.
we anticipate that to reduce some of our calls.
Excellent. Are there any questions or concerns from members of the board? Any from members of the public present? Any from the phone?
And no comment from the phone.
Thank you then. We'll move on to agenda item 5, which is the update on the June 30th, 2015 postgraduate training requirements and physician reentry to practice interested parties meeting.
Yeah, so if you would turn to pages license 5, 1 through 9, that's the report that I prepared regarding the update, and then also the information for what we provided at the interested parties meeting is from pages 4 through 9. On June 30th, the board held an interested parties meeting regarding the minimum number of years of board-recognized accredited postgraduate training to obtain a physician and surgeon license and requirements for physicians who want to re-enter the practice of medicine after an absence of an extended period of time. Dr. Bishop chaired that meeting for us, and it was held in Sacramento. As I stated, the copy of the information that we provided regarding the interested parties meeting on postgraduate training is on pages 4 through 9 of Licensing 5. The current minimum requirements for a U.S. and Canadian medical school graduate is 1 year and must have a license by the end of 24 months. And the minimum requirement for an international medical graduate is 24 months and must be licensed by the end of 36 months. All accredited postgraduate training, including training in other states and Canada, counts towards the 24 and 36 months license exemptions. The specific requirements for postgraduate training by state and the issues that have been identified by staff, graduate medical education deans, GME staff, and GME program directors to consider prior to seeking changes to California statutes and regulations were identified in the June 30th packet materials from the limited meetings that we had, Ms. Kirkmeyer and I had with some of the GME deans and a few of other program directors. And that is provided in the pages 4 through 9. The board is considering increasing the minimum requirements from up to 3 years, possibly 2 years, and for it to be the same for both U.S. and Canadian and international medical graduates. One of the other things the board should consider if they're going to consider revising it up to 3 years is possibly the process of how we review international medical schools. One of the other considerations is that the minimum amount of accredited postgraduate training for any of the programs is 3 years, and it goes as high as 7. And so the Federation of State Medical Boards is also recommending a minimum of 3 years for future, so that, and the states vary from state to state. There are 2 states that require 3 years now. Most states require something in between, and one state, I believe, it requires a full completion of a program. This would also need to be, part of that would also require us to reconsider how we do our licensing process and possibly a training license at some point in time during that training period to help resolve some of the issues that were identified regarding being able to sign birth certificates, death certificates, and prescriptions. And then after that, we received one comment from a 4th-year international medical school student who attended the meeting and was about increasing the number of years of ACGME or Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada accredited training program to 3 years, and she supported that, and she also supported the use of the New World School Medical Directory instead of the current California list for possible medical schools for being eligible for licensure. She said that if the minimum requirement was extended up to 3 years. Dr. Bishop then moved on to the topic of physician and reentry to practice after a period of non-practice and how long of a period of non-practice would be allowed before a physician would be required to be evaluated. Ms. Kirkmeyer stated this is just not a California issue, but as also a nationwide issue. Some of the items we need to consider is what does reentry mean? What can a physician do in order to come back into practice? What would be required in order to ensure consumer protection? There's also a limited number of programs that provide this type of training that's available to these physicians. The board received valuable input from three speakers. One was being Ms. Bowling, Director of Communication Regulatory Board of Professional Boundaries, Inc., and she made comments regarding types of education that their organization found beneficial. Dr. Parat, Senior Vice President, Chief Medical Officer, California Health Association, and also serves on the Board of Commissioners for the Joint Commission, stated hospitals generally consider 2 years to be out of practice, and before they require, and after that they require physicians to take extra training and work with another physician. And Ms. Chung from the California Medical Association stated she agreed with both the previous speakers and also said we need to define what out of practice means. Does it mean a physician who's currently in practice but has limited patient interaction? She also said one size does not fit all physicians, and another consideration is cost. And we also don't issue licenses by specialty, so that's another consideration. So the board does plan on holding another interested parties meeting on these topics in the Southern California area, on which I'm going to be working on arranging. So,
Thank you for all your hard work. I wanted to ask the medical board staff, as we proceed, at some point, obviously, if we're considering that there may be something like a training license for residents or house staff, that we, as we move forward, perhaps look at the financial or fiscal impact on the medical board for having 2 levels of licensure and what that would cost and what burdens it would place on you as we move forward, just as part of your assessment as we move forward on this.
I already have staff working on that, so.
You're always ahead of the ball, aren't you? Thank you very much. Are there any comments from members of the committee? Got it.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Warden. Actually, this is pretty important because as we go through the disciplinary process, it just amazes me sometimes somebody finishes 1 year of internship, if they're a U.S. graduate, and actually thrown out of residency in 2nd year, and they're eligible for license. So that's concerning. But at the same time, as I think about, and there are allied health professionals, nurse practitioners and PAs with increasing scope of practice, they go through none of this. So it's a tough issue. Plus, the training programs require licenses after a certain time. So I want you to look into all those and especially spend time with the residency program directors, what their needs are also. One mention is about training license. So it's a complicated issue. We do want to protect the public, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we don't disrupt training and we don't make it the best trained people to be the last ones to get license compared to anybody else.
Any members from the committee? Any comments from members of the audience? All right, any from the phone?
No comment from the phone.
Okay. I just wanted to make a moment to make a comment. I'm actually kind of surprised at the lack of attendance at the first meeting and the lack of comments in these meetings. It seems like a topic that I would have thought would be very near and dear to the hearts of the consumer advocates, if nothing else. At any rate, we certainly welcome any input, and we need your input to make sure this works correctly for us and the citizens of the state of California. So thank you very much. Does that complete our report? Future agenda items, correct? Are there
Correct.
any future agenda items anyone would like to add from the committee? From members of the audience present? And from the phone?
Nothing from the telephones.
Very good. Well, thank you very much. I'd like to now call for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
And a second? With do we have to, Mr. Warden, have to do a roll call for this, or just
I don't
just a
think so.
voice call? All in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.